The government shutdown is ending. Finally, the Senate voted to end the longest shutdown in American history. The bill now heads to the House of Representatives. Plus, President Trump wants to send a $2,000 stimulus to all Americans, including seniors on Social Security and disability. I gave you an update on this yesterday. I have new information regarding this dividend stimulus that the president is pushing before the end of the year. Stay with me till this video ends. I will give you a quick update on that. Finally, let's talk about food stamps. The Trump administration has gone back to court, the Supreme Court, to fight November food stamps. They want the money that has already been sent to be returned. I'm going to give you an update on that Supreme Court case and the implications it has for the 42 million SNAP recipients, some of whom had already received their SNAP benefits for November and probably have spent some of it, and now the government wants the money back. My name is Kwame Kwade. I am a government benefits expert. For 15 years, I've been helping seniors get the retirement benefits they deserve. I create content on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, and other personal finance topics that affect seniors and their retirement and finances. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. I am glad you're here. Do me a quick favor, go into the comments and let me know your city and your state, because I like to know where you're watching my channel from. And if you've been a regular watcher of this channel and you've been here for a while, welcome back. I am glad you're here. Thank you for your support. Let's dive right into it. So I want to start with the government shutdown because that is the news of the day. We've all been anticipating the end to this shutdown, which has caused so much pain to a lot of people. So let's see what CNN is reporting here. So obviously, the Senate has voted to end the shutdown. And so what comes next? It says a small band of Senate Democrats voted with Republicans on Monday, which was yesterday night, to approve a funding measure to reopen the federal government without securing their party's demand to guarantee an extension of Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies, which help millions of Americans afford health insurance. The funding compromise will now go to the House, where GOP leaders are hopeful it will pass as soon as Wednesday, which is tomorrow, and end the longest ever U.S. shutdown. The recently struck deal, which President Trump is expected to sign, will restore critical services like federal food aid, as well as pay hundreds of thousands of federal workers. So, 8 members of the Senate Democratic caucus crossed aisles to join with Republicans, and that was a 60-40 vote. One Republican voted in opposition, that is Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. Now, here is the thing. The shutdown has been politically painful on Capitol Hill. Republicans have repeatedly shouldered blame in recent polling for the funding lapse, and a deal struck by Democrat centrists in the Senate has ignited a fight within their party about its strategy within the already 41-day fight. So here is some context here. Here's the thing. It's good news that the shutdown is over because we know the pain that has caused food assistance, which I'm going to talk to you about, because the Trump administration want to go and take back money that has already been paid in full to SNAP recipients. So that is still a problem. And so this end to the shutdown allows food stamps to be restored. I don't know when, but it will be restored fully, and any backlog will be cleared. It may take some weeks to do that. So that's good news. Number 2, huge disruption to travel. Thanksgiving travel was coming, and God forbid, we don't know what was going to happen if you have all these planes that are being canceled, flights that are being canceled, and not enough air traffic controllers. So that was not a good situation. So I think it's good that the shutdown has ended. But the critical question is healthcare subsidies, and that's not going to go away because it's open enrollment season starting November 1st, and a lot of people, including seniors that are not yet 65 on Medicare, are finding out that their premiums have more than doubled. I have recorded videos and talked about this, so that issue is not going away. The Senate has promised a vote in December to address the extension of the subsidies. The House has not promised to take up that measure. So there's still pain that is going to be felt regarding healthcare. And about 25 million people depend on those subsidies to pay for healthcare. So that is going to be an issue. I'm going to stay on top of it and bring you updates on that. So it's not over, but the good news is that the shutdown is over. Food stamp benefits are going to be restored. Federal workers are going to be paid back the money that has been furloughed or backlogged. And most importantly, critical government services like air traffic control and all these things will continue to function. And one of the things I learned about this is that, you know, we don't know how, if, the government, so many places that the government is participating in our lives until there's a shutdown like this and we begin to see the effects of some critical government functions that we depend on. So I think it's overall good news, but I think the healthcare issue is not going to go away. It's going to rear its head back, and people are not going to be happy when they find out that their healthcare subsidies are going away because they were being taken out during the big beautiful bill, and now they are being faced with thousands and thousands of dollars in this economy, where people are struggling and now they have to add healthcare costs, especially seniors that don't yet qualify for Medicare. So let me know your thoughts about the end to the government shutdown. Do you agree that it needed to end? And do you agree that healthcare subsidies are still going to be a problem and that a lot of seniors and people on disability who do not qualify for disability benefits are now going to have to figure out how they're going to pay for their health care because of the premium increases? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you want to stay on top of all of these crazy headlines that have been coming at us at a faster pace than we've ever experienced, text the word insider to 443-293-0080. You'll be added to my text list. It's free of charge, and you'll receive 1 or 2 text messages from me each week letting you know critical information that you should be aware of and what it means for you and your retirement, your finances, and critically, your benefits. So text the word insider to the number you see on your screen, and you'll be added to my text list. You'll join thousands of seniors and others that are receiving critical messages from me via text each week. And so I am looking forward to seeing you on that list. Now, let's talk about the stimulus. But before I do that, let's go quickly and talk about food stamps because the Trump administration has gone back to court. And so I want to share with you what's happening with that. Okay, so here is a headline that we should see. It says Trump administration tells Supreme Court it still wants to block full food stamp payments. So the administration is determined to do this. And so let's read a little bit of what that is about. It says a federal appeals court in Boston for a second time rejected a request by the Trump administration to block a lower court judge's order that it pay 42 million Americans their full SNAP benefits during the government shutdown. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson told the administration to inform the Supreme Court by 11 a.m. Eastern if it intends to continue to seek a stay of the order. The ruling by the 3-judge panel of the First Circuit Court of Appeals came a day after the U.S. Department of Agriculture threatened states that have issued full benefits since Friday with financial penalties if they do not undo those payments. Now, I don't know how you undo payments that have already been sent. The Trump administration told the Supreme Court Monday that it still wants to block a Rhode Island federal judge's order mandating that it pay 42 million Americans their full SNAP benefit for November. A message came a day after the First Circuit Court of Appeals in Boston, for the second time, flatly rejected a request by the Trump administration to stay that order pending its full appeal of the decision. The judge's order remains temporarily paused as a result of prior ruling by Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. But Jackson on Monday told the Trump administration to inform the Supreme Court by 11 a.m. whether it intends to continue to seek a stay on the order. The administration quickly did so and said it will comply with her directive to file a supplemental brief on the request by 4 p.m. Monday. Plaintiffs in the case were told to respond by 8 a.m. Tuesday, which is today. Separately, on Monday, a federal judge in Massachusetts issued an order blocking the Trump administration memo over the weekend, telling states they had to undo any full SNAP benefits to recipients or face financial penalties. The ruling Sunday night by three-judge panel for the First Circuit Court of Appeals came a day after the U.S. Department of Agriculture issued that memo. So essentially, you know, the if you've been paying attention, and I've been doing a lot of reporting on this, if you've been paying attention to what's happening with food stamps, there are three things that happened. The first one is that the administration did not want to pay SNAP benefits at all during the month of November due to the shutdown, even though they had money in an emergency fund. They were sued and they lost the lawsuit. And so they were forced to use the money that is in the emergency fund to pay SNAP benefits. The problem was that the money in the fund is $5.5 billion, could only pay 65% of SNAP benefits. And so the administration was forced to do it by two separate judges, one in Rhode Island, one in Boston. The administration came back to the judge in Rhode Island and said, look, okay, we're going to begrudgingly pay this, even though we don't like it, but paying partial benefits is going to cause a lot of confusion among the states, because now they have to reconfigure their systems and figure out who is going to get partial benefits. I even did a reporting on this, that when they did the initial calculation, a lot of seniors on Social Security and disability were going to get $0. Some were going to get $12 due to the partial benefit directive. So that's background. So then the judge said, okay, if partial benefits is going to cause confusion and further delay benefits that are critical to 42 million Americans. Remember, 16 million children are on food stamps, to 8 million seniors, 1.5 million veterans, etc. 22,000 active military duty families are on food stamps. And so the judge said if paying partial benefits is going to cause confusion, then go ahead and pay full benefits. Find the money to top off the money in the reserve account and pay full benefits, because you have found the money elsewhere to pay other things during the shutdown, so you can do the same. Well, the administration said no. But remember, when the judge said go ahead and issue full benefits, so states went ahead and issued full benefits. Well, the administration then went to court and wanted to block the full benefits directive. And so they then sent a letter to states threatening the states who had already paid the full benefits that you should take the money back. Don't listen to the judge. Take the money back. Well, then they went to the appeals court to stay the judge's order, which means that they want the order stopped immediately while they appealed the decision. Well, the appeals court said no. So they went to the Supreme Court, and then they got the stay. But the Supreme Court granted the stay to allow the appeals court to make a decision. Well, the appeals court came back at the three-judge panel and said, no, we're not going to block the order. And so now the Supreme Court is thinking, is the administration now that they've lost at the appeals court, are they going to go to the Supreme Court and have the Supreme Court hear the case? And the administration said yes. So what does this all mean? Well, hopefully the government shutdown formally ends sometime this week. But this is a policy, but also a legal question, that during the shutdown, when there's an emergency and the government is already moving money around from different places, can they pick and choose what they want to pay and what they don't want to pay? And the judge is saying, if you're doing it at one place and you have the money, you might as well do it at a critical place like food stamps, where people are going to go hungry without it. And so that is, I'm not a lawyer, but I have a fair understanding of what's happening, and that's my interpretation of what has happened over the last couple of weeks. And so now the Supreme Court is going to take the matter. So even if the government shutdown ends, the case will still proceed, because that legal question needs to be answered. Because for future, we may be back here in January, because the government shutdown funding only extends to January. So if January comes and they haven't gotten their act together, we could be back doing this again. And some of these questions need to be answered now, because we may need the answer for a future scenario that comes. So I hope this explains what's happening with the money and the Supreme Court and food stamps and all that. So that is the second thing I wanted to update you about. Now, as I mentioned, if you want to stay on top of all of this, if you find all of this, fast-paced breaking news that's been happening just overwhelming, then text the word insider and join my text list free of charge, and join thousands of seniors who are already getting text messages from me once or twice a week, letting you know of critical updates that you should know about that may affect your benefits, your finances, and your retirement. So text the word insider to 443-293-0080. And finally, let's talk about stimulus. Well, President Trump wants to send a $2,000 stimulus to Americans, including seniors, on Social Security and disability. So the question here is, will Americans get another stimulus check this year? Here's what has to happen. On Saturday, Trump wrote on Truth Social. I want to make sure that you can see this. Yes, you can. So Trump wrote on Truth Social that his tariff plan will benefit working class people, and those who oppose the tariffs are fools. And then he proposed a $2,000 stimulus. Well, let me give you a little bit of background about this, because this is not the first time the president is proposing a stimulus check. This started this year. So let's walk through the history of all of this. So the first time the president proposed this was a $600 stimulus that he wanted to do. That was early this year. So this was back in July, and so he was on some news channel, and he said he wanted to send a rebate of $600. And so the senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley, then wrote legislation to do exactly that, and he called it the American Worker Rebate Act. But it also included seniors, because it was going to be just like the stimulus check that we got during the pandemic, right? It says it will be similar parameters to the direct payments passed by Congress in 2020 during the pandemic. And not only did he release a press release, he actually wrote legislation to do this. So Senator Josh Hawley presented legislation in the Congress to do exactly that, and I want to show that to you. It says in the 119th Congress, which is the Congress we're in now, to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to provide rebate to individuals using tariff proceeds. It could not be any more clear than that. So that was the legislation that he wrote, and I'm not going to bore you with the legalese, but I'm going to go to the section that talked about it. It says, it's going to, for the purpose of paragraph whatever, is going to give you $600 right here. As you can see, $600, right? Or more, or amount, if they get more proceeds, then you can get more. So that was what that legislation said, right? He's going to give you $600, or if there's more money, you're eligible for more. Then a few months later, in October, the president increased that amount and said he was going to send more, not just $600, but he wants to increase that to 2,000, 1,000 or 2,000. And so here is information on that. This was October on Fox, October the 7th. Trump said he's considering giving Americans $2,000 tariff stimulus check, right? President Trump said he's looking to send in stimulus check worth 1,000 to 2,000. Stimulus check will be dividend to the people of America. Stimulus will be funded from revenues generated from tariffs. So this is the second iteration of that idea. And then now we are in the third iteration, which happened a few days ago, where the president said he is considering, like seriously considering doing it. The new information here is that he wants to do it before the end of the year. So here's Fox again. It says Trump dividend, tariff dividend. Trump is again saying about what Trump is again saying about possible 2025 stimulus check. So the president is back in the news saying he wants to send this before the end of the year. So what needs to happen? Well, obviously, legislation has to be drafted, and I'm sure somebody, it has to be drafted in the Senate and in the House and then passed. And here's my thought about that. The fact that Josh Hawley drafted that legislation for the $600 thing, it shows that this can be done very quickly. So now that the president has presented it the third time and wants to do it before the end of the year, what do I think is going to happen? Well, if I'm reading the tea leaves, I think that the president wants to do this because he sees that people are struggling. The economy is tough for a lot of people, especially seniors on fixed income. And so this is another way to just put more money in the pockets of seniors and people on disability, who are the people that I am advocating for. So those are the people that I'm going to talk about. And I think it makes sense. If you've been paying attention to the economy, everything has gone up and stayed up. And so a stimulus check, direct payment, and a lot of people think the tariffs had something to do with rising costs. And so what better way to make it back or make it up to people who've been impacted by this economy by giving direct payment from tariff revenue? It makes sense to me. And my opinion is that when President Trump wants something, especially out of this Congress, he gets it. So look at the big, beautiful bill. That was a gigantic lift, and they got it done because the president wanted it as a priority. And so, given that this is the third time he's talking about this, I take him at his word unless he says otherwise. So, I am expecting a stimulus check by the end of the year. And I think seniors will be very, very happy about that, especially given what I've just talked about. So, I will stay on top of this news and let you know what's happening with it. But my expectation is that there will be a stimulus before the end of the year. And then finally, as I have been doing on my crusade during this open enrollment season for Medicare, I want to talk about why you need to review your Medicare before you renew. Now, as I have mentioned, I am on a mission to help 100,000 seniors get peace of mind about Medicare. Why is that important? Because 90% of seniors are in the wrong Medicare plan. Why? Because there are 24,000 Medicare plans out there, and it is very hard to figure things out, especially when there's so much change that is happening with Advantage plans leaving specific states, with changes to prescription drug plans that are happening, with United Healthcare dropping 600,000 Advantage plans in specific areas, with hospitals dropping plans. There's so much happening with Medicare. And if you think, oh, I'm on original Medicare, I don't have to worry. Wrong. Because if you live in one of 6 states, starting January 1st, 2026, you're going to need pre authorization in order to access certain services, procedures, and devices if you're on original Medicare. And so the point is that there's so much happening on both sides, whether you're on original Medicare and you need your Medigap plan reviewed, or you're on Medicare Advantage and you want to get into a better Advantage plan that serves you better. And when we're talking about cost of Medicare, we're not just talking about just premiums. We're talking about total cost, out-of-pocket cost, prescription drugs especially, which is going up a lot, copay, deductibles, etc. So the best thing you can do for yourself to get peace of mind about Medicare is to have an unbiased opinion about your current plan and then compare it to options that are available to you in your local area, whether you're on a Medigap plan or whether you're on an Advantage plan, so that come January 1st, 2026, you've achieved that peace of mind knowing that you have done the 3 things that gives you peace of mind about Medicare. Number 1 is that you've reviewed your current plan and understand all the changes that are happening to it. Number 2, you've compared it to all the other options that are available to you in your local area. And number 3, that the plan that you are going to choose meets not only your budget, but the provider network that you need to be in. Doctors, hospitals, especially if you live in a rural area, a lot of hospitals are getting ready to close or are paring back services because of changes that have happened in the big, beautiful bill that have affected rural hospitals. And so just automatically renewing your Medicare plan is not wise. It is setting yourself up for surprises come January. And so that's why we're partnering with Chapter Medicare, because they are the people that will give you that unbiased opinion and it's free. So give them a call today, 539-205-2147. I'm going to put their information in the comments and in the description. And if you rather that they call you, then fill out the form at askchapter.org/insider, and they'll call you back. But it's during open enrollment season. We have a short window to do this, and you owe it to yourself to get this free, unbiased opinion so that come January, you know you've achieved that peace of mind that if God forbid anything happens, your plan is the best plan to deal with it and to cover you, and it fits your needs. So give Chapter a call today, 539-205-2147, and you'll be glad you did. So that is all I wanted to cover with you today. If you like what you heard, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this information with anybody that you think needs to be aware of what's happening, and hit the notification button so that when I release new videos, you'll be the first to hear about it. Thank you for watching.